Hello, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America, featuring today's top directors sharing behind-the-scenes stories of their latest films and insights into the craft of directing. Please take a second to subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts. This episode takes us behind the scenes of director Roxann Dawson's new biographical drama, Breakthrough. Based on Joyce Smith's memoir, The Impossible, the miraculous story of a mother's faith and her child's resurrection, the film tells the true story of how all hope seemed lost after Smith's adopted son, John, fell into an icy Missouri lake and afterwards lay lifeless in a hospital. Even in the face of every scientific prediction and medical case history, Smith's refusal to give up and steadfast belief inspired those around her to continue to pray for John's recovery. Breakthrough is Ms. Dawson's feature film directorial debut. Her other credits include the pilot and first 2 episodes of Mercy Street, as well as episodes of numerous shows, including The Americans, The Chi, Runaways, The Deuce, and The Good Wife. Following a recent screening of the film at the Harmony Gold Theater in Los Angeles, Ms. Dawson spoke with director Allan Arkush about filming Breakthrough. During their conversation, Ms. Dawson discusses the way she identified with the film's protagonist, how she convinced Chrissy Metz to star in the film, and how she executed the film's crucial ice sequence, which required shooting on a frozen lake and a water tank.
Okay. How long have we known each other?
A really, really long time.
Okay, yeah.
Decades, I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
So tell me what attracted you to this movie and the material.
Well, it was first just sent to me by my agent, and I read through it, and I couldn't believe it. It didn't sound like a real story, so I read through it again, and then I looked up on the internet and found all the information about it, and it just kind of blew my mind, the actual story. But I also thought there was something in the script that still needed to be developed, in that I didn't think the story was necessarily about the miracle, but about what it did to the family and the community. I thought that's where the movie lived. And we then spent the next while developing the film along those lines, because I thought there were so many little miracles that happened along the way that that's what I really wanted to explore.
So are you a person of the Christian faith?
Yes, I am. I'm Catholic.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. And it did, inform me, of course, to a certain degree. But I have not always been Catholic. It was a choice. It was I was brought up in an atheist, a devout atheist household, and spent my time going to Berkeley, exploring everything from Buddhism to all different kinds of Christianity. And finally, when I met my future husband, looked into Catholicism and decided that's the way I wanted to go. I also wanted to bring up my children in a faith, because I kind of regretted not having that knowledge and not being able then to make a choice. So that was something that was important to me personally. And so definitely there was an identification there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about.
Yeah.
Being a mom.
Yeah.
How much of that came into play?
Well, I think also one of the things that I just really identified with is that I also have an adopted daughter. And she brought home that same assignment that John brings home about the family history. And I remember it opening up a lot of interesting conversation for us. But I think Joyce's love of John was something that I just immediately hooked into. I have 2 photographs in my office. One is when my biological daughter was handed to me when she was born, and the first time that I saw her, and then when my adopted daughter was handed to me in China, and for the first time at 8 months old. And my expression is the same. And I bring that up because there really is no difference. I think our children come to us in all different ways, and that's one of the things that I found so powerful about this story, the power of a mother's love, and really what it means to be a mother, and what the power of community and faith, and ultimately that power of love, what it can do.
So that's kind of a gift to us in our job. Sometimes we get to express life experience.
Oh, it's so, so often I think that when we're handed, and since I think most everybody here is a fellow director, you're handed projects and sometimes you identify with things more than you do others, and sometimes you're actually looking for things to cling on to, say, I can sort of get this, and maybe this is the statement I want to make. I think one of the wonderful things about this script and in its development in the last stages of it, and even throughout the shooting, was that I felt that I was really doing something that I believed in, and also getting to know Joyce and John and the father, all the first responders, all the doctors. I spent a weekend with them in St. Louis, and the story is as extraordinary as it is here. And I think the power, like I said in the beginning, is not so much the fact that this boy was without a pulse for an hour before he came back to life, but it's what it is still doing to the people over there. We had a screening there in St. Louis, and all the first responders were there, the doctors, and of course Joyce and John and Pastor Jason. And I have to say, they are still touching lives with the power of love and community. It's something that I think is just really powerful, and hopefully this film can ripple out and touch people in that way.
So knowing the backstory of the real people and meeting them, how did that inform the casting?
Well, the casting began with Chrissy, and basically Fox 2000 said, if you don't get Chrissy to do this, we're not doing the film. And then they kind of threw it to me and said, go have coffee with her and tell us what happened. So it was like, it was up to me to seal the deal. And to be honest with you, I wasn't sure. I'd seen Chrissy on This Is Us. I knew at that time Joyce as a person. I knew that it would take Chrissy to go really deep to be able to do this. And what I loved about her when we talked was she had a very healthy fear of the role, which told me that she was willing to explore it, Once we had her on board, the rest of the casting came in quite interestingly, in that each person that we put an offer out to wanted to call me and talk to me because they knew it was a faith-based film, which is sometimes like a dirty word in Hollywood. I don't know. It's just, they wanted to make sure that it wasn't all going to be, a little, angels floating around. And each single one of the actors talked to me on the phone, and they wanted to know how their characters were being portrayed. And what was interesting is that each and every actor had their own personal story that brought them to this film and that they wanted to explore. Each and every one of them. So when they showed up on the set, it just wasn't a job. They actually chose to do this job because of something in their personal life that they were dealing with. And it was kind of extraordinary as these phone calls kept happening. And I would turn to my producer and go, well, that was another one that wants to use this film to learn about something in their own life. It was just kind of amazing.
Okay, so you get on an airplane today, and you're going to go direct The Deuce.
Yes.
And I can't avoid this joke. So you're going to go from the sacred to the profane.
Yes.
Okay. So tell me about what it takes to encompass characters who from such different things of life.
Well, they definitely aren't the same audience, yes.
Yes, and you have a fantastic actress in Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Oh, Maggie Gyllenhaal and James Franco. I mean, they're extraordinary actors.
Because you and I had talked about empathy and so forth.
Yes, I think that, and I don't think this really is as much of a stretch as you might think, but they are actually similar in a certain way. In that, I think that if you really look at The Deuce, I don't know how many of you know the story of it, but it really is about love, about finding your place in the world, about a struggle. All of these things, there are common themes. And I think when there are themes that are important to you and you can latch into those, and that is the episode that I start shooting on Wednesday, is about family and about returning to family, and it's about loss, and it is about the power of love. And it's kind of ironic because I'm reading the script of The Deuce and getting all emotional and going, oh my gosh, this is so amazing, but there are so many ties into family and love in the episode that I'm doing for The Deuce, that it really is, I don't know, it's almost like in the air. There just seem to be a lot of things about us wanting to return home, turn to our family, these troubled times, and really find some kind of solace there. So I think people are connecting with that on some level.
Well, having seen just about everything you've directed, the common thread is an empathy, that you have for the characters. So I'm going to get just a little geeky here, directing geeky, okay?
Okay.
So The Good Wife, Treme, Bosch, Scandal, The Americans, House of Cards, The Deuce, The Chi, Mercy Street, Heroes, Bates Motel, Lost. Well, there's a vast team of researchers found out that you had done 54 different shows. Okay?
Wow.
And if you know how to, after a while, you get to know how to read someone's IMDb, okay? Now, on the great shows, you're brought back multiple times, okay? On shows that are good shows, there's only one credit. So in my mind, I'm thinking, Roxann figured this show out, and moved on, and you seem to always had a pretty good control of your career, okay? Is this movie the real Roxann? I mean, what's the difference of choices between working for such powerful, showrunners like you have and all those different producer-directors?
Well, the most important show, which you left out, is Crossing Jordan, which is what we met on.
Yeah.
And Allan gave me my first chance at being a director on network television, which was it was the beginning of my career. And it's because he had faith in me.
And it took a year.
And it took a year.
And let's not embarrass the network who wouldn't hire you, NBC. I'm sorry, did that jump out?
But it really is. I mean, Allan convinced them to have faith in me because he had faith in me, and he stood behind his word, and it was just, that was really the beginning for me. And he has been a mentor to me. How many times have I called you? I know, I've pulled the car over late at night and called you on the phone and asked you advice, because I know Allan has always been a part of my decisions.
You know what I always remember? On Jordan, the first episode we gave you was really hard. And we got a lot of directors. Friday night's always the worst. And we were talking, and I said, okay, Friday night at lunch, here's what you got on your one-liner after that. So Friday night from lunch on, you're more than the captain, right?
Yes.
And you've got to drive them and whip them along. And you really took it like an athlete, and so it turned out great.
Well, that's when being a previous actor comes in handy. You just sort of fake it till you make it. I think that helps. But yes, it was like, I'm so beyond grateful to you. And I just have to say, Allan was also at our first family and friend screening of this film, which is the first time we showed it to any living human being, and in a very small screening room over at Fox. And Allan had the most perceptive notes, which, at that time it was over 30 minutes longer than it is now. And you gave such crystal clear notes that I think almost every single one of them were implemented. And it was so helpful to me,
Thank
so
you.
that even at this stage in the game, so it's really come full circle. I feel you saw the very first, and now you've seen.
Well, what's
the
funny
ending.
is there's so many genres in this that you have done. So that's what I'm getting
medical,
at.
the
You've done all of that, and so now it's
Yeah.
on you. So
Yeah.
tell us about that.
Well, I think that, yes, this is, I'm proud of this film. Yes, I think this represents me, and not just what I would want to say, but also I think the elements that we took of it, I elevated the style of it, the underwater sequences, all of that, everything that I've done on television, everything I've done in my career has been sort of leading up to me being able to handle this story. And I'm grateful for each and every one of those experiences, which taught me something. And this film taught me something. And hopefully I can take that and move on. But I did love, I have to say, I'm spoiled. I love working in different genres. I also love being the boss, too. I loved that the buck really did stop with me, for better or for worse, on this film. And that Fox they trusted in me to do what I wanted to do. I think I told you a funny story when we were talking earlier, that I was running late on a day. Nobody's ever experienced that, right? And we were doing this film, and I turned to my first AD and I said, my God, this is the first scene I'm going to cut in the editing room. And he turned to me and said, well, why are you shooting it? he says, "You're the director." And suddenly it occurred to me, oh, that's right, I'm not working for somebody else. This actually is, but I shot it anyway because I was too nervous not to, and it was the first scene I cut. So, but it was so interesting to not have to be trying to answer, to serve another master, but to really try to serve the best part of myself. And that was really exciting.
Now, did it feel different not having a showrunner over your shoulder or a writer from the staff? Or?
Yes, it felt very different. And I know that probably this was unusual. I know that even in features, especially the larger features and the larger budgets that you're handed, that there are a lot of cooks. For some reason, I had just a really uniquely wonderful experience. Devon Franklin, who was my producer, who was beside me all the time, who I trust. We just had a tacit way of communicating, and we were on the same page in terms of what we wanted to achieve. So I took his comments really seriously, and I felt we worked so well as a team to bring this about. So it was just, I think from day one till now, it's just been this amazing ride and wonderful experience for me.
Because I see the whole thing flows really well from every shot. Sometimes, and I say this to my wife, sometimes we'll turn on TCM and get 5 minutes and something, and I'll say, we're in good hands here, And from the first 5 minutes on of this, we're in good hands here.
Well, I every time I jump a screen direction, even if it's on purpose, I think you're taking a note. So, so I remember the first time in Crossing Jordan, where I went, well, it's for the action. And you were like, no, we're going to go back. And you either flipped the thing or you reshot something for me in Crossing Jordan. It was like, no, we don't do that. I was like, okay.
Well, one of the things that we talked about is being an episodic director. It's a lot like being a studio musician. So 1 week you're playing with the Beach Boys, and the next week you're doing the theme to Mission Impossible. I'm using analogies of Los Angeles musicians. So you have to get a whole new band.
You do. I think that's the wonderful thing about being an episodic director is if you do several shows in a season and they're all different, I mean, you get to just jump into all these different ways of shooting and study them and get good at them and embrace them. And I think that is the gift of being an episodic director, and also the obligation to really take that seriously and to learn and study every show that you're going into, so that you can understand their visual language and make it happen with your own twist.
Yeah, you come in and you learn someone else's style of the show, and you see how that makes you feel when you look at your dailies and so forth. And then that becomes something that gets put in your director's bag.
Yes, definitely.
And you go through that. And some of these showrunners, Damon Lindelof, and they're pretty smart people.
Yes,
and
very smart.
Scandal. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here.
Yeah, a lot of different styles. Each and every one I'm grateful for. Yeah.
So what's the rest of the season like for you?
Well, I do The Deuce, and then I think I'm moving on to, I'm looking at a lot of scripts. I've got some things I don't really want to talk about yet, I guess. They're like there, and you go, let's not jinx some of them. But it's, it looks like it'll be a good year. And but it has been a good year, I just, and I get to go away for a couple of weeks and celebrate my 25th anniversary with my husband in Europe. So, I mean, that's like one of the highlights of my year. So. Okay,
so every director will look at their work in a show or something. What's your favorite things that when you see this, you go, you're pretty happy with?
Oh, wow. You didn't tell me you're going to ask me that. Along with my favorite color.
That was the last question. What's her favorite color? And if you had to eat one food for the rest of your life.
Oh, wow. Somewhere between pasta and sushi, which don't go together. But, it took a lot of work and a lot of collaboration to make the ice sequence work. It was 2 days on a real frozen lake, 3 days in tanks. And I was pleased with the way it came out. And there are times where even I have to think back, was it on the real ice or wasn't it? Because we've jumped back and forth so much in the editing between the real and the fake world, and that took a lot of storyboarding and all the departments really stepping up and doing their job. So that I'm proud of that.
Yeah, it's pretty seamless. The moment that gets me every time is the boy lying in bed and the water rushing in over him.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a surprise.
And I'll tell you, that's so funny because one of the things I think that I always do is when I read a script for the first time is I can't read a script without a pen. I know sometimes they just say read it and don't know what to think. One of the first things that I wrote right at that point in the script was beds going under the water. And I didn't know yet where that would take me, but I kept transferring into all the scripts and finally it just made sense. But there was something instinctual. We have so many different levels of our brain that are working, and sometimes there are notes that you'll take, that you don't know really where they're coming from yet, but they will make sense eventually. And that was one of them.
Yeah, there's a thing when a script excites you, you immediately see the pictures.
Yeah.
You immediately see the pictures.
Yeah.
And someone will say to you afterwards, how did you think of that? And then you'll just look at them and go, well, it seemed pretty obvious.
Yes, that's so true. That's so true.
So what happens when you see something that you've made and you haven't seen it in 5 or 10 years? Do you have any kind of...
Oh, only that I've gotten better, I think, hopefully. Yeah. Sometimes something will play. If I'm in a hotel room or something and I'll see something play, or you're in a gym and Charmed will come on. You go, oh my gosh, I did that Leprechaun episode. And you'll think, wow, I've gotten so much better, I think.
I was in a hotel room and St. Elsewhere came on.
Yeah.
And I was a huge fan, so I'd seen every episode. I'm watching the episode going, oh, yeah, I remember this episode. And then the camera does this move, and I go, oh, I directed this episode. And they really didn't want me to do that camera move.
Oh, my gosh. Yes. Yes.
Anyone have any questions?
Oh, we shot it entirely in Winnipeg. So if you thought it was in 4 different cities, I guess that's good because it gave a sort of a feel. But it was really all shot in Winnipeg, every bit of it. We had a really good visual effects team, and we planned it out well. Picked my team from up there. I brought in my DP, from Los Angeles, from the United States. We did interviews here, and then we did interviews up there. My first AD came from Vancouver, and a lot of the team came from various places in Canada. We had really a great team up there, and production designer came from the States. Our wardrobe came from the States, but we had a lot of Canadian team up there. They were great. They were really wonderful.
Anyone else?
Because John's story wasn't finished, and he needed to go through something and come out the other side. The other characters had been through something, but we hadn't seen how John responded, and so the rest of the story was his resolution.
I'm glad you asked that, because you and I have talked several times about the biggest challenge being all those stories.
Yes.
And getting a flow to it and getting for it to wrap up.
When Allan saw it, we had about 3 endings on the film. It's very hard to end a film, period. But this one, we had a lot of different ways to go. And then Fox was unsure as to whether we should even bring up any question about, why me. At time, some of those scenes were in and then out. And then Devon Franklin and I really fought for that, because not only was it true, and that teacher actually did approach John, and that really did happen, except she wasn't quite as nice as this teacher. But all of that was so, I think, important to portray this story with a sense of balance. And I think that we wanted to make sure that the other side was also represented, the people that still had questions, that we weren't trying to answer all the questions. The first responders service that you saw there actually is available on YouTube, and you can go and see all of the first responders standing and getting recognition. Because I think that we can say that, yes, it's a miracle, but it's not a miracle without every single one of that medical team and the first responders and everybody involved. They all were very much a part of this, an intricate part of the reason why John is still here and is an amazing young man. But anyway, it was very important that that part of the film be included. Yes, Chrissy Metz. Diane Warren wrote the song, and Devon Franklin sent the movie to her and said, do you want to write something for this? And she saw that first responder scene with everybody standing up, and she was so inspired by this that she wrote this song, I'm Standing With You, and within hours of seeing the film, called Devon up and sang the few phrases to him on the phone. And then we were going to have somebody else do it, and Devon said, just let Chrissy have a stab at it. And Diane was not on board with that at first until we were all in the studio and we heard her kind of go for it and went, my God, the purity of her voice. Just went, and she also sang it on the ACMA, on the ACM Awards as well, with along with Carrie Underwood and a few of the other people that have given us their music for this. Carrie Underwood was another person who saw the movie and was moved by it and wanted to give us her song "Love Wins," which was such a blessing. But I have to say, Marcelo Zarvos, who did our score for us, was profound. I mean, when I met with him, I knew that he understood the movie, the way he talked about the characters and the scenes and what needed to happen. And I just thought his score was just out of this world. I think one of the best days of this entire thing was me watching the scoring on the scoring
stage. Isn't that fun?
Oh.
It comes to life like that.
Oh my gosh. And
there's nothing like just seeing your movie with the music and just the dialogue.
Oh my gosh. It was such a gift. And he just understood, and I thought he really did a great job with our score.
It's beautifully mixed too, because the music seems to appear. Mm-hmm. It just seems to all of a sudden be there. You notice it.
We worked really hard on that.
So Val?
Hey. Thank you, Val. Thank you. We had a few, one that I disagreed with, but I was so grateful that they spent the money to get the song and that it was okay that I said okay. But it's the first song, Uptown Funk. They had to take out the word damn from it. So there's just like this vamp, but basically it would not get the rating that it did if that word was in there. And I said, everybody's going to notice that it's not there and that we're catering to a certain crowd and stuff, so we kind of I gave up on that because we actually got this song that I'd wanted from the very beginning, because I thought, if you're going to label it faith-based to open up with Uptown Funk, we'll hopefully disarm people, you know what I mean, and take us into a different kind of world so we can look at it anew. But the only other thing that we did that I'm actually kind of grateful for is, and Devon was very much on top of all of this, was that we went through in post and removed a lot of the crosses from the background. What we wanted to do is make sure that it didn't look like we were trying to be too preachy, and I actually wasn't even aware of a lot of them there. Our production designer and the dressers had put a lot into different places, and but we removed them from the pastor's home. We removed them from places in the hospital that they were naturally. But I think that was okay. I didn't want it, if somebody was perceiving it as being too much or too heavy. That's not what I wanted to do. So if people were perceiving it that way, I didn't notice it, then let's remove them. Let's try to give it again some balance. So yeah, there was a little bit of that, but nothing that tied my hands.
Well, I look forward to whatever you're developing that's really the real Roxann. Okay?
Oh.
Well, so thank you, and thank you for this great movie.
Oh, thank you so much, Allan, for everything. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. If you'd like to hear more, you can find past episodes of The Director's Cut wherever you listen to podcasts. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Also, if you're enjoying our show, please take a moment to rate and review us. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow cinephiles find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.